We don't usually think about our spirit visitors as being particularly caring. In fact, the usual scenario is that they either ignore us or at worst are downright hostile. In these two accounts, the ghost involved is astonishingly caring and nurturing in very practical ways. The first was a true experience sent by a Weird World viewer, while the second is about a well-documented historic occurrence. Christmas Day Ghost. Julie Nicholson sent an account of a strange incident which occurred in her extended family. It took place in a small town just outside of Lincoln in the United Kingdom in December 2021, and she vows that every detail is just as it happened and 100% true. She and her husband Keith had gone to visit their youngest daughter Sarah, her husband Ben, and their 3 young children for Christmas. The 3 children are a girl aged 8 years old and twins, a girl and a boy, both aged 7. Julie states that the family lives in a 3-storey home built about 1900. Usually, the boy sleeps in a double bedroom at the back of the house. The 2 girls were sharing a large double bedroom at the front, which had a double bunk bed with a single top bunk. This room took up the full width of the house, while the children's mum and dad had the top floor suite. For their visit, Julie and Keith were put into their grandson's bedroom, so were sleeping in a comfortable double bed at the rear of the house. Their grandson would be sleeping in a camp-style bed, similar to a reclining sun lounger in his sister's bedroom. At about midnight or 12:30 a.m, all 4 adults went to bed. Julie always sleeps with her window open, as does her daughter. They also had their bedroom door wide open, as they wanted to hear when their grandchildren woke up. At around 4 a.m, Julie heard the first excited noises from the children. Any parent knows the joy and excitement of Christmas Eve. There were loud, excited whispers of, he's been, Lily, are you awake? He's been, and I'm eating my chocolate, and so on, continuing. Julie was chatting to her husband, reminiscing about Christmases past, regretting such a late night with all the excitement about the next day, and so forth. She asked him, "What time is it?" And he looked at his phone. It was 4 a.m, and they were quite wide awake, tired, but definitely awake. After about an hour, Julie said, "I'm going to see the kids," meaning that she would either try to settle them, slim chance of that, or see if they wanted breakfast. She decided that she would most probably try to keep them quiet and entertained in their bedroom for another hour, as it really was too early. This is where Julie's ghost story really starts. Their bedroom door suddenly slammed shut. Her immediate thought was, Sarah will think I'm being passive-aggressive, as she believed her daughter must have come down to the children, causing a draft from her open window to slam shut their bedroom door. Keith said, "No, wait, Sarah's sorting them now." That was when they heard a voice. They couldn't actually make out individual words, but they could understand that it was speaking along the lines of, "It's too early and you'll be tired all day." Not really a telling off, but kind of firm. Soon after that, Julie fell back to sleep, which seemed like a Christmas miracle on its own. The whole household woke about 7 a.m, which is when her daughter Sarah burst into their bedroom with a Merry Christmas greeting. Then she added, "How did you get them back to sleep?" That was when they found out that, as Julie was saying, "I'll settle them," Sarah was telling her husband, "I need to sort the kids before they wake Mum." And as Julie's husband was saying, "Shh, Sarah's in with them," Sarah's husband was telling her, "No, your mum's in with them now." All 4 adults now very pointedly asked the children who had come into them. One child said that they thought it was Mummy. Another said that they thought it was Nanny, i.e. Julie, because they saw her long blonde hair hanging down. The third child didn't know who it was, but obviously verified the account of someone coming. Julie does have long blonde hair, but always sleeps with it up. She and Keith returned to their daughter's house this Christmas, but there was no sign of their caring ghost this time. Just who was this very interactive and helpful spirit will always remain a family mystery. The White Lady. This much verified account goes back to 1539 in South Bohemia, now the Czech Republic. This is when the baby Petrovok was born, the sole heir and last in line of the aristocratic Rosenberg family. His father was desperate that nothing should impede his growth and continuation of a power lineage stretching back over centuries. He hired a team of nannies to maintain a 24-hour watch on the infant at the family's Krumlov castle. The nannies were with Petra constantly, caring for him by day and sleeping in his room at night. One night, one of the nannies awoke abruptly to find the room strangely bright and glowing with moonlight. As she stared around, she saw an eerie, misty figure beside Petra's cradle. The nanny was speechless and shaking with fright as she watched the intruder, a woman dressed all in white, gaze down at the baby, who awoke and started to cry. The woman gently picked him up and comforted him before tenderly replacing him in the crib and promptly disappearing. Still shaking, the terrified nanny woke her colleague and told her of the apparition. On checking the baby, they found that he was sleeping peacefully with a smile on his face. Both nannies had heard of the presence of the White Lady, who was said to haunt castles of the Rosenberg family, but had dismissed reports as folklore. The next night both stayed awake to see if the apparition returned, in the locked room with all windows secured. Just after midnight they spotted a pale light, and the phantom nanny appeared again and again rocked the cradle, cuddled the baby, and then, seemingly satisfied that all was well, dissolved into a wall. According to one historical account, each successive night the two young women waited for the White Lady to appear, and she never let them down. Now satisfied that she meant no harm, the nannies took her for granted and did not bother to stay awake. However, at one stage, one of the regular nannies became ill and a temporary replacement filled in, with no one warning her of the White Lady's appearance. That night, the replacement nanny had trouble sleeping and was awake when the ghost visited. The next morning, when she checked with the other nannies, she was told not to worry, as the White Lady was taking care of Petra at night. However, she was still concerned, worried about the master's reaction if anything happened to the boy, when she would have to explain that she left him in the care of a ghost. The following night she again lay sleepless when the phantom appeared and rocked the cradle, then picked up Petra when he started to cry. The anxious nanny leapt from her bed and bravely approached the figure. She grabbed the infant from the White Lady's arms, to which she put up no resistance. The spectre stood motionless, then turned to sternly address the young woman. Calling her Bold One, she explained that she was a relative of the newborn and it was her right to be with him. However, she would not be seen there any more. She is said to have made a cross sign on the wall and then disappear into it. Petra did grow up to inherit the castle and was told the story of his mystery guardian, whom he often discussed with friends and relatives. One day he decided to check the wall where she had last been seen. Workmen began knocking a hole in it and discovered a trove of coins and gems. One historian has suggested that the powerful spirit of the White Lady apparition was a Rosenberg family member called Lady Perchta. She had enjoyed a happy childhood in Krumlov Castle until, at the age of 20, her father decided to strategically marry her off to an aristocrat called Jan of Liechtenstein. She became trapped in the miserable union, from where she wrote letters of despair and pleading to her fathers and brothers to release her from the bondage, pleas that would go mainly ignored. Jan Liechtenstein had married Perchta solely because he had believed she would bring with her a large dowry, as he had unresolved debts. Her father had been unaware of this, and while he did negotiate a generous dowry, ultimately did not pay it. This condemned Perchta to cruel treatment by her new husband, mother-in-law and sister-in-law. According to Perchta's biographer, Ida Krysiova, her own children did not survive, and she eventually voluntarily succumbed to the plague at age 49 in 1476. Krysiova says that in her letters, Perchta showed great spiritual development, although was apparently cursed by her husband on his deathbed for not forgiving him, and also to haunt the family's many abodes, most famously Krumlov Castle.